Hello and welcome to Hip Stitch Academy. I have a sewing boss here with me. I have Molly from Butcher's Sew Shop in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And she is going to tell us a little bit about her sewing studio to start us off. So,
Sure. Yeah.
sorry, I just like
So
go.
this is our go. Yeah. So this is our fourth year in business. So we do classes for all ages. We have classes for adults in everything from beginner sewing to draping, flat pattern making. We mostly teach garment making. We do have some bag making classes and some quilting classes as well. And then another really exciting part of our business is we do classes for kids. So we have kids as young as 5 in here. And we do after school programs for them, Saturday sewing programs, and then we also have a week-long summer camps in the summer.
Cool.
And we have, so we started out with one studio that was, we opened in a historic butcher shop in the Italian Market neighborhood in South Philly, which is why we have our name, Butcher's Sew Shop. And then last year opened a second studio in the Graduate Hospital neighborhood. So I'm talking to you from the second studio.
Wow, so that's a lot. That's amazing that you were able to have enough business going on in your primary location to have a second location. How far away are the two locations? Is it like different neighborhoods? I don't know Philadelphia very well.
Yeah. So Philly's very like neighborhood based.
Mhm.
So we're not actually that far apart. It's probably maybe like 1.5 miles or 2 miles, but we still draw from kind of like completely different neighborhoods, even though the studios aren't that far apart.
Okay.
And the position of the second studio was sort of centered on the number of schools that are in this area. Because we do pick up for our after school program. So we knew that we needed to be close to some of the local schools.
Gotcha. Okay. So instead of like bringing the class to the schools, you kind of decided make a studio where there are a lot of schools within walking distance, and then you kind of send teachers over to the schools to pick them up. I love that. Okay. Because it's all about eliminating the need for the parent or babysitter to pick them up and get them to sewing class, right? That's what we've definitely found as well. Although we tend to have more classes in the schools because the schools around here, that's what they want. They want to be able to, do, and it's nice because they do the enrollment, they get kids registered, and then we usually have a full class. But that's because with sewing, it's harder to make a mobile sewing studio. Obviously, you've got sewing machines and all the tools and fabrics. So that's lovely. You kind of bring them to your space and then parents will pick up from your space.
Right. Yeah. And we found that that's a big draw, the pickup option. And most of the other after school programs in these two neighborhoods have that same model. So parents sort of expect that as part of the package. But we did just start our first program in another school a couple of weeks ago, and we were able to do it because because the school got a grant to fund the program, so they were able to provide all the machines. Because you're right, it's the issue of like hauling 10 sewing machines back and forth makes it sort of impossible.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
well, it's not impossible because I do.
No, not impossible.
We definitely don't haul 10, but
a lot more cumbersome.
yeah. There's ways to make it work, but I'm really into your idea. And it's funny because there are some schools within walking distance. I just haven't kind of explored that option. So maybe I'll think about that a little more. I love talking to all you inspiring sewing people. There's so many great ideas for teaching kids how to sew that are kind of out of the box. So okay, so your locations are both kind of like storefront locations, or are they more studio spaces? Tell us about the spaces.
No, they're both storefront spaces. I might be able to like scan around.
Yeah.
View
Tell us around. Oh,
so
pretty.
that's South Street. We've got some of the kids' stuffed animals in the windows there, and then you can see that's where the machines are in the back, and over here we've got our chalkboard with their schedule. So yeah, they're both storefront spaces. This one is in an area with a lot more foot traffic. It's more of like a business corridor. Our other one's kind of hidden in the Italian market neighborhood. But I think we get most of our, at least initially, most of our business was word of mouth, because that first location wasn't really in a highly visible area.
Mm-hmm.
And it's changed a little bit with this spot because there is a good amount of foot traffic. So we get people coming in and asking questions and finding out about us that way. But I'm sure it's the same for you. Like a kid has a good experience and all the parents are talking, and that's how you get more business.
Oh, definitely. And it's always like, because I don't have a storefront anymore, it blows my mind that like people are literally in Hoboken and Googling sewing classes, and they don't necessarily know about us, but then they're like, wow, look at this studio, because we come up in Google right away, and then they come and have a great experience, because we don't have the sort of walk by traffic. It's word of mouth. So if you've taken it and spread the word, people know, but otherwise people find us from Google searches. So
yeah, and that's true of us too. A lot of Google, especially for our adult classes.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Google traffic. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just funny. And they're lucky. They're like, ooh, where are the classes in Philly? Oh, look, it's down the street. I didn't even know.
No, I always think like what a different world it would have been to have a business before the internet.
Yeah, so different. All right, cool. So I noticed on your website that you have a partner. Is that the case? I think that's what I saw. Yeah.
Not a business partner.
Oh, not a business partner.
No, but I do have a wonderful staff. Are you talking about Andrea?
Maybe. There were a picture of two of you.
Andrea is our studio director. So she runs everything.
Awesome.
So she does a lot of our marketing. She does all the scheduling, and she's kind of like the liaison between parents and our adult students as well.
Okay, so she's a paid position within your business.
Right. And she's been around since the beginning. So honestly, she feels very much like a partner to me.
Awesome. Okay. So then I just have to know, is she like, you pay her like a full-time salary? Like that to me is like, wow, that's a lot. That's amazing.
Yeah. She's paid a full-time salary. Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot. I think the thought of that for me and my business is like, whoa, that, I have a lot of part-time employees, and they sort of make it work most of them have like little side businesses, and then they teach or they sell on Etsy or whatever they do. But I think it's like, wow, that's somebody's full income, my business. And that I think that would feel like a lot of pressure. I mean, obviously, that's amazing that you are able to do that. That definitely says something about your business. So
yeah, I think you probably feel this way too, but I think it is like the most difficult thing when you employ people is for me at least is feeling like I'm taking care of everyone and being responsible. So Andrea and I are salaried, and then we have about 5 other teachers who are part-time.
Okay, cool. All right.
But yeah, she and I are responsible for kind of the day-to-day, making sure everything's running.
Okay, so how do you split the responsibilities of running the studios? You said she's your creative director, so she has a lot of the parent responsibility. What are your roles sort of that complement what she does, just to kind of know the division?
Yeah. So Andrea does a lot of the marketing. She does our social media. She is the one who's responsible for scheduling and working with our so we have a registration software for our kids program. So she manages all of that in terms of like who's coming in and what they're signing up for, and getting making sure that everybody has the communication they need for both of our adult classes and our kids classes. And we have about 100 kids a week in our kids program. So when you're 100 kids really means like 300 people, because you're dealing with often 2 parents for every kid. So it's a lot of responding to emails and phone calls. And then with our adult classes, we probably have, might have maybe 60 adults in the studio in a week. So there's just a lot of emailing and phone calling and checking text messages and Facebook messages. And she's a total boss at all of that. And then when the 2 of us come together, we're responsible for kind of planning our seasons. So figuring out what classes are going to be coming up. We have like a core curriculum that we always offer, but then we also do seasonal classes. So in the winter, we might do outerwear, and summer swimwear. So we're always kind of like sewing stuff up and finding, looking through patterns and making samples that we think would be appealing. And then I'm sort of responsible for just the overarching, like, I manage all of the staff, so making sure everybody is where they need to be. I oversee the implementation of the kids curriculum, so making sure that we've got 11-week curriculum for the fall for our kids programs, and then moving on to the summer. Summer is like our busiest time because we run full day camps every week for 9 weeks, and we have them at both studios. So that ends up requiring a lot of prep work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow. I am just like hearing all this and going, wow, that's amazing that there's 2 of you doing this. I think about it, and as the owner, I think it's hard to find somebody who cares about it maybe as much as you do. And so I am kind of focused on that, because it's like, how do you find that person who isn't the owner, but is sort of, and I mean, I guess it's because it's her full-time job, but even so, it's a little different. Do you find it is? Like, I've never really had an employee that it's their job, and at the end of the day, I'm the one that's sort of like caring about it because I'm the owner. Like, even dealing with parents, like I'm the one that's doing that because it's my business. I'm sort of the face behind it, and so I want to know that the parents are happy, or if they're unhappy or whatever it is. So to find somebody who will kind of take some of that responsibility with you, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it takes a really special kind of person. And Andrea is absolutely amazing. And she's, like I said, she's been around since the beginning. So she and I have both grown this business together, even though she isn't technically a partner. But she's been such a huge part of the direction that we've taken. And she does treat this like it's her own. And I should say, like, she was not a salaried position from the beginning. She worked part-time for the first year and a half. But yeah, she really cares. And I couldn't be more thankful to have found somebody who does this with me every day. And we know each other just because a friend of mine from college, when I was opening the studio, said, "Oh, you've got to meet this woman. She's in my sewing circle. And she's really wonderful, and she has this sewing blog." So Andrea was a sewing blogger for a long time. And I was like, "Oh, that would be great," and I emailed her, and we met up for coffee, and I immediately knew that she was someone that I had to bring in somehow. So I asked her if she would teach a knits class, how to sew knits. And then I just like kept asking her to do more and more and more stuff, and suckered her in until she's here all the time. Yeah.
That's awesome. Good.
Yeah, I think when you find people, you gotta kind of latch onto them. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And kind of find more and more, it's like, I find you find more and more for them to do so they can sort of be more and more committed to what you're doing. Yeah. So that's,
well, she's very self-starting too. So she's been able to create her own position.
good. Good. Okay. So then, I don't think we talked about how long have you been in business? When did you first open the first? Maybe you mentioned it. I'm sorry if I. No?
This is the fourth year. So we opened that means 2013.
Okay. Cool.
In the late spring.
Okay. Awesome. And what is your background? What did you do before you opened the business?
This is funny because Andrea and I sort of have similar backgrounds, but I went to school for anthropology. When I got out of school, I worked at a nonprofit for like 6 years, and I was helping to create this after school mentorship program. And I really loved it. And in the beginning, we were building this thing that was totally new, and I was doing like, every single job, and it was very hands-on. And the program ended up being successful, so it got to the point where 3-4 years in, my job, we hired more people, and my job became more managing people and fundraising and sitting at a desk. And so it's kind of like a classic story where I realized this just wasn't the life that I wanted. And I'd always sewn since I was little. But I found myself like the more and more I wanted to get away from my job, like the more and more I would sew at home. And so I started taking classes at Moore College in their continuing ed department, classes in like pattern making and advanced garment construction. And then I ended up leaving my job with no real plan, which always sounds sort of scary to people, but at the time it was something where I knew that it was scary not to do that. So I ended up completing their certificate program, and I started teaching private lessons in my studio at home. And I'd always worked with kids. So I think when I had gone back to school, like I said, I was always a sewer, but learning these really professional garment construction techniques, my mind was sort of blown. And the idea of creating a space where people could learn how to sew their own clothing that looked, like we like to say, looks handmade, not homemade. That was really inspiring for me. And so that was the impetus behind opening the studio. And I knew as part of that I also wanted to teach kids. And I'm really glad that those two programs have ended up really complementing each other. And I still teach one of the kids' classes every week, and I love seeing all the stuff that they come up with. But yeah, so that's how it started.
Okay. I keep hearing, it's funny that the subject of handmade versus homemade kind of keeps coming up, and I'm just curious about how you differentiate that in your studio. Is there?
Yeah, so we like to, so I mean, we really talk about that more with our adult classes.
Of course, yeah.
We like people to come away with something that looks professionally finished.
Mm-hmm.
So like the inside is as beautiful as the outside. And something where, you might need to kind of like nudge someone to ask if you made it.
Right.
It's not like immediately evident. But I guess what we mean by that is just that like those extra special touches that show that you've put that care and that thought into making something that looks like it could almost be ready to wear.
Do you ever feel like that's more than what somebody wants or is ready for, and then you kind of back off? Or is that something that's like, I don't know. I kind of feel like sometimes you have to teach to your student, and maybe there are some students that aren't as, and maybe that's more of like a beginner class, but I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess I teach to what they're sort of okay with. And if I, am teaching somebody who is, really concerned about that, then we'll go there. But at the same time, a lot of times people come to our studio because they have a stressful job and they just want to like, learn how to make a quilt or learn how to make a pair of leggings, and making it all, perfect inside isn't necessarily their number one concern. But, I guess I'm just curious because I would love to do that, but it can be hard because people maybe don't want to get to that level. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, well, I think it's important that, so for us, it's important that we teach those things, but as a beginner, nothing's going to look professional the first time you do it. So for us, it's always more important to create a space where people feel comfortable trying new things. So I think that people come back to our classes because they feel like it's a comfortable space for them. So like we always say, like, just feel proud of yourself because you're here. Like your friends are at home watching Netflix right now. So you've like taken a step to do something creative with your hands, and that's all you need to worry about. So we're going to teach you these things and you want to try them out, but I've been doing this for years and I still make mistakes. So I think it's like letting people know that it's possible to make things that are really beautiful on the inside and outside, but also giving the expectation that that's not going to happen your first time. Like I would not wear like anything I made the first 3 years I was sewing. I wore them then, but like I looked,
okay, you don't wear it now.
I'll wear it now. So I think it's hard, especially with adults. Like I don't find this with kids because kids don't tend to tie expectations to things. But I do have adult students who come in and like, they really just like, they want a finished product. And they want it to look beautiful. And that's just not how it works. Like you gotta go through the learning part and the like making mistakes. And even though I did go to school, I'm mostly self-taught, and most of the things I taught myself are because I messed it up the first time. And then I had to figure out how do you really do this? So we always teach the same things, but it's always up to the person of whether or not they're at that, they're ready to take that on.
Yes. What do you do to kind of stay inspired for, coming up with new curriculum? Or do you sell the patterns that are on your website, or are they patterns that you sell of other people?
We don't sell any patterns. Well, we do have a one free pattern on our website.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I thought I just saw that.
Yeah. To stay inspired, well, I try to stay aware of what all the indie pattern companies are doing. So kind of a highlight of my morning every day is opening up my inbox and just like with my tea, like going through all the newsletters from various pattern companies and seeing what's out there, and then like checking Instagram. And my students also really inspire me, both the kids and the adults. I think we do these samples and we have an idea of what people are going to come in with, and then people pick like really amazing funky fabric that I would have like never thought to sew with, or they'll come in and they'll have made something on their own. So just like the community that we've created, I think is really like a source of inspiration for me. But I think in terms of being a business owner, you get so caught up in like the things that need to get done every day and like the fires that have to be put out that you didn't see coming. so as as the business has grown and I've been able to take a little bit more, like I have the luxury of taking a little more time away from all of that stuff, I found that it's just really important for me to go out in nature and like take a hike and have at least a day every week where I just kind of remove myself from the business, because that's really important for me to stay inspired and help things grow. If I'm just stuck in it every day, it's not good for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
there was, the first couple of years, that was really hard to do because you're doing everything.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, just being an entrepreneur, you're so in it, and you're in it for 12 hours a day, and you're making it grow. And then, yeah, so that's good. That's good to hear that you have figured out pretty quickly. I mean, within 4 years, to take that time to get away from it, and you
I
have
mean, it's
somebody.
not natural for me, so I,
Oh, yeah. I don't think it's natural for anybody who has
yeah,
their own
yeah,
business,
yeah,
yeah, to
yeah.
do that.
So
So
I'm forcing
good for
myself.
you. And I guess, as far as like non-sewing related business wise, like what are the things that you find to be the most beneficial as far as booking classes and getting more students and growing your business? What do you do for marketing?
Yeah. So we have, well, I mean, we're lucky to be in a really big city.
Mm.
So I would say most people come through us through Yelp, and we try to um, be pretty diligent about letting people know that they can review us on Yelp.
Ah.
So I'd say most people come through like a Google search and then through Yelp. Um, we we do, now that we have the studio in a more commercial area, we do get a fair amount of business from people seeing our storefront. And then we do Instagram and Facebook. Instagram is really good for us for promoting new classes to people that are already in the loop. So already in our mix. We're lucky that most students who take a class with us come back for more classes.
Mhm.
So that's really like how our business can be sustainable. So, getting new people into our 101 class is one thing, but then we really want those people to keep coming back. And so when we do our Instagram posts or our Facebook posts or our newsletters, we're kind of catering to those people, like, look, hey, this is what everybody's been up to in the studio. Like, we'd really like to have you back.
Mhm.
Here's some new things you can sign up for. And it's wonderful to see those people like come back again and again for classes, and then you run into them on the street and they're sewing on their own, and it's just awesome to like see that culture kind of evolve here from our classes. So yeah, we don't do in terms of promotion other than that. There's like, we don't really pay for advertising and too many things. We do we for our kids programs, we do brochures and flyers that get sent to the schools, and we put them out around the city. But and again, it's just also a lot of word of mouth.
Yeah.
People telling their friends and parents talking to each other.
Okay.
What
Great.
about you? What do you guys do?
I mean, I think email, yeah, like the newsletter, that's definitely the thing. We have a pretty big database. So it's people in the know. It's funny because Instagram, like we do Instagram to sort of have a presence, but I don't know if it's like maybe now more and more people are using Instagram, but it just seems like a lot of our customers are more like Facebook users. And then, we
Yeah.
spent a lot of time growing that Facebook platform, and then all of a sudden, Facebook kind of took that away from you. I mean, that was a couple years ago, but that was definitely like, whoa, now we can't reach all these people who, are fans of our page or whatever it is. So that was tough to swallow. But also just a lesson in learning that, if we own the email list, that's the thing to focus on growing, and getting the word out. So Yeah, so that's definitely the thing. And then, yeah, word of mouth. And for us too, it's funny because being in the schools, as many schools as that we're in, that's a huge promotional tool for us because we are not allowed to send flyers in the school. You know, they would never let us do that. But if we have a class as part of their enrichment program, that's going into the inboxes of, you know, all the people that go to that school, even if their kid doesn't sign up, you know, if they're not the right age or whatever, then that parent still knows about us and they'll come and sign up for an adult class, or they'll come sign up for summer camp. So that's a big one, you know, just being able to be a part of that. While it's difficult and we have a lot of different classes happening, you know, during the day in different places, it's definitely worth it for marketing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to doing this, to do this. And yeah, hopefully, you know, if you can maybe join one of our discussions, it's always good to have, you know, different people kind of weighing in. I think they're useful, and it's great. I'm loving just meeting all of you and hearing about how you do it, and hearing the differences, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
It's so fascinating how different people are doing teaching sewing. So thank you for taking the time to share that. And I'll definitely be posting it within the next couple of days. I'll let you know.
Yeah, and I'll let you know if I'm in Hoboken anytime soon.
Please do, or even if you come to New York or something.
Yeah, we go to, Andrew and I like to do like a mood trip every once in a while. So yeah.
Good, let me know. I'd love to meet you. We can grab coffee. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Okay, bye.